Hey, it's Soul, and today I'm going to take an in-depth look at the ways World of Warcraft and Final Fantasy XIV monetize their games. There are a lot of weird takes people have made lately on how one shop is better than the other, and why these items are justified while others are not, something pay to win, and so on and so forth. I'm going to present the straight information on each game's monetization features and save my spicy opinions for the end, so feel free to use the navigation bar to skip to whatever section you like. Hopefully this will clear the air on some facts and my own stance on things, and let's go, starting with this little tidbit. World of Warcraft has an in-game shop, added in 2013, while Final Fantasy XIV does not. That seems to matter to a lot of people, so I ought to throw that in. Both launchers, by the way, do promote sales of recently added items. WoW expansion packs start at around $40 and go up depending on if you want some extra digital goodies. For example, for $60, you can get the Heroic Edition of Shadowlands, which includes an extra mount, a transmog set exclusive to this purchase, and a character boost that you can apply to any character and get right into the latest expansion. Final Fantasy XIV expansion prices run roughly the same and include comparable additions, but without the character boost because they totally don't work the same way. I'm gonna have more on that later. Both games employ a monthly subscription with various tiers. In the World of Warcraft, there's a free trial that lets you try out the game up to level 20. Here in the United States, its normal sub cost is $15 a month. This includes access to every expansion minus the most current one. In this case, it's Shadowlands. You still gotta buy the box for that, as well as access to the WoW Classic era and Burning Crusade Classic, the games of yore. It's safe to predict that if future Classic era games are released, they'll also be included with this price. The subscription cost dips down to $14 a month if you purchase game time in 3-month blocks, and if you buy a 6-month subscription, the cost goes down further to $13 a month. On top of that, when special 6-month promotional mounts are released, those with an active 6-month subscription will have these mounts gifted to them. These mounts normally have a $25 value, and so far, 6 of these mounts have been part of this deal. Having a WoW subscription will let you make a maximum of 50 characters per WoW account. You can make as many characters you want on the same realm as long as you don't exceed the max of 50. Final Fantasy XIV's free trial includes the full base game, including the award-winning Heaven's Ward expansion, which includes up to level 60 content. I am understating this, but this trial includes many dozens of hours worth of content, hundreds of hours if you don't skip cutscenes. That's a joke. Otherwise, it has the same subscription scheme as WoW, the 1, 3, and 6-month subscription blocks, but without the 6-month promotions. Instead, it uses a loyalty sort of system where, after you're subscribed for a number of days, you're gifted something as a thank you. At the moment, this maxes out at 4 rewards after being subscribed for a total of 330 days. There are 2 tiers of subscriptions, the standard that I just mentioned, and an entry-level subscription. A standard sub lets you make up to 8 characters per server with a maximum of 40 per account. An entry sub is cheaper, it's only $13 instead of $15, but it's not subject to bulk discounts. Here you can only make 1 character per server and 8 total on the account. Both games do share a Recruiter Friend program, which is outside of the scope of this topic because this is more about taking your extra money and not getting someone else to spend theirs. But they do work similarly, with referral links and rewards based on how long your recruits have been subscribed. Now let's talk about services, starting with World of Warcraft. A character boost is included in later versions of its expansions, but if bought a la carte, it'll set you back 60 bones. This lets you level 1 character, that is 1 class, up to the start of the current expansion. They get some starter gold, some gear, some bags, and off they go. If you want to change your appearance, you can do so at an in-game barbershop for no real money cost. This also includes changing genders. To change your name, it costs $10. To change your race, $25, which happens to include a name change. To change your faction from Horde to Alliance and vice versa, it's $30. This includes a name change as well, and since races are tied to factions, you get to choose a race from the other faction. There are conditions that allow you to transfer to select realms at no cost, but if you want to transfer to any different server, that's $25 per character. You can alter your guild as well. To faction change that, it's $40. To change its name, $20, or, well, you can tell people to report it as a language violation if you can get away with it. If you want to transfer your guild to another realm, that's $35. It's important to note that many individuals use this particular service as a kind of super transfer to move a single character if they happen to have massive inventory that they want to bring with them, and they don't want to spend the extra money to move multiple characters. Final Fantasy XIV, with its unique way of progression through the game, has different levels of boosts. Like the World of Warcraft, when you use one, you get some goodies and currency. This is a job-based boost, meaning one character will have its job level raised up to the start of the most current expansion. It costs $25 per job. However, this only boosts that job's level and skips the relevant job-related quests. Final Fantasy XIV also gates its content behind its main quest content, often referred to as the MSQ. If you also want to skip the story, this costs up to $25 depending on how far you want to skip. So if you only want to skip the base game, it's only $11, but if you want to skip everything up to the current Shadowbringers expansion, it's gonna cost the full $25. When the new Endwalker expansion is released, these prices will adjust, but I anticipate the total cost will remain at $25. Changing your character's name will cost you $10. To transfer to a different server, $18. There's no barbershop equivalent in Final Fantasy XIV, but you can buy files of Fantasia for $10 a pop in the store, or at a discount if you buy it in bulk. There's also one that you can obtain in-game by completing a certain quest. Fantasia lets you change both your race, your gender, and your appearance. Free companies, which are the guilds of Final Fantasy XIV, do not have services attached to them, but they are planned for a future date. Unfortunately, that statement was made in 2017. There are also retainers that you can rent. In a nutshell, retainers are support NPCs who can hold on to things, sell things on the auction house, and send off on adventures to collect stuff. You get 2 with your subscription, but you can hire additional retainers for $2 a month for each, up to 7 retainers for $14 total. Final Fantasy XIV also has a companion app for some offline management. This is free, or you can opt into a premium version of it that has more features, including an extra retainer. That's an additional $5 a month. Now, these aren't needed at all to enjoy the game, but at a certain level of play where this much inventory management is needed, well, this does give the player a greater advantage than someone at a similar level of play who does not buy into the additional services. Quick personal opinion, in my experience, this does qualify as a pay-to-win feature, but that's like saying using multiple WoW accounts to camp the auction house and crafting is also pay-to-win. I just felt that it's important to both note it and play it down. Now let's get to all the fun little goodies that you can buy for your characters. Keep in mind that the items available in the shops of either game are massively dwarfed by what is available just from playing the game. In the World of Warcraft shop, I should first note that there are items that have been basically retired. This includes a few mounts, pets, and transmog, some of which were part of a promotional bundle for BlizzCon celebrations. In the WoW shop, there are 21 mounts that start at $15 and go all the way up to $30. Some of the mounts here include ones that would come from a collector's edition expansion set and the mounts that you get for free with a 6-month subscription. There are currently 20 pets. Some of these were initially launched as a charity, earning Blizzard no money for at least a period of time. Other pets here were a part of a few physical bundles like plushies. The pets here cost $10. A small number of toys are available, one of which was meant to help fund esport award pools but was caught in a bit of a controversy, but at any rate, they're $10 each. Finally, there is one full transmog outfit, the Sprite Darter's Wings, that goes for $20. Now for the Final Fantasy XIV store, and I should preface this. A lot of the items here were at one point obtainable via in-game events. Once those events ended, the related items would later appear here in the shop, and I'll cite this as I go. 14 has a total of 26 shop mounts, 6 of which were obtainable in-game. Those 6 mounts from events are also character specific, as in if you have multiple characters who you want in these mounts, you'd have to buy one for each character. The prices of these start at $12 and go up to $36 if you want a 4-seater mount, or $42 for an 8-seater mount. There are costume sets of all manner of themes and quality, with 106 in all. Among them, 43 were obtainable through in-game events, and some of these sets provide small stat bonuses. It's hardly a pay-to-win option though, as these only last through like your early job leveling. These cost anywhere between $5 to $18 each. And there's a single face paint option that was also once available from an in-game event. In your journey through Final Fantasy XIV, you will eventually get your own chocobo, or bird thing, as a starter mount. You can customize its look too with 9 different chocobo bardings, 5 of which could have been obtained from an in-game event. There are also non-set armor pieces, 89 in all, and nearly all of them could have been earned from in-game events. If you want to buy these are also a 1 per character purchase. They start at $3 and go up to 6. There are 20 unique visible rings and earrings that you can also buy that used to be available in-game. These are $3 each. And of course there are weapon appearances, but keep in mind that the selections are job specific unless you buy a bundle. You can't just have your Marauder use a staff or anything like that. These go for $3 a pop, and some come in a set, they go for $7. There are emotes too, many of which you can get from just playing the game, and there are 37 in the shop. Of those, 20 were once available from in-game events. These go anywhere between $2 and $7. Dyes are one of the numerous features that make 14 stand out from WoW. Dyes are made by crafters in-game, but there are ones you can buy from the shop. They're $1 a pop, or you can buy 10 for $7.50. You can start a marriage event in-game, you can bring guests and party favors, and you can also buy an eternal bond. Now you can get married for free, but throwing down 10 or $20 can get you extra threads and items to spruce up your event. There are music tracks you can collect for your orchestrion or jukebox. There are 31 of these in the shop, 16 of which were from in-game events. And then of course there's player housing. Out of the 133 items in the shop, 110 of them came and went thanks to an in-game event. The stuff here starts at $5 and goes all the way up to 15 or 20 for a bundle of artwork that would normally go for 40 if they were bought separately. Something to note though, housing items are a single purchase unless marked. Not too many people are going to care that they can't lay down like infinite baskets of fruit, but say if you want to line your house with gold walls, it's going to set you back $5 per panel or 10 for a pack of 3. And now let's talk about the gray market. And first, let's get some obvious things out of the way. It exists. For both games. Well, pretty much for all games, really. And don't worry, I am going to talk about the WoW token in its own separate special little section. But if you look around the internet, you will see a thriving gray market of companies who sell gold or gil and services, as well as brokers who facilitate what they call safe trades and services between individuals. Generally, the gray market serves 2 purposes that are appealing to people, some of which overlap. One is to save time because the person doesn't have it. 2 is to overcome a skill-based challenge because, again, the person doesn't have it. The idea of endgame is different for everybody, but for the sake of keeping to the subject of monetization, we're going to use the context that endgame is max-level content with a fairly well-developed character. I'd argue that the majority of endgame Final Fantasy XIV gameplay involves farming. Lots and lots of farming for different currencies to obtain and upgrade items. This takes up considerable time that a player may not have, so the gray market can be a solution for them. There are tougher dungeons, tougher raids, and on occasion a notoriously difficult ultimate raid. But Savage and ultimate raids are pretty much it when it comes to high-skill, organized endgame. There is a market for it too, to the tune of up to several $100s for an ultimate carry. By comparison, the World of Warcraft facilitates a much more expansive gray market than Final Fantasy XIV, and it's very easy to see why. WoW has its share of long-term farms and grinds that doesn't involve incredible skill, but there's no question, WoW just has a lot more endgame content with skill floors that not everyone can hope to reach. From rated PvP, to Mythic Plus, to raiding, the big 3, as I call it, involves high levels of skill, prep, and organization. World of Warcraft also has a regular cadence of this content with its patches, or seasons. With each one comes a new level of challenges and rewards, and with that comes a much more lively gray market of players asking for carries and players willing to sell their services. As for the costs, you can buy a carry through Sanctum of Domination in normal mode, which is a bit over $100. Or you can pay to become a rank 1 gladiator before the end of a season, which I'm seeing goes for well over $1,000. There's both a time and skill commitment, which again, some people don't have, but they do have cash money. Let's finally talk about the WoW token, which sort of redefines the idea of the gray market between Final Fantasy XIV and World of Warcraft. We'll begin with a pretty dry explanation of how it works. A player who wants gold or service can enter the gray market, that is the internet, and buy said gold or service directly with real money. or they can go to the Blizzard store and buy a WoW token for $20. They can then post that token on a regional market and trade it for gold at a non-fixed price. If they see a price that they like, they can essentially redeem their token for that listed price and receive their gold, and then of course use it on the player market for whatever it is that they want. On the other end, players with gold who want to buy a token can do so on the market. If they see a price that's good, that is cheap, they can throw down the gold and buy the token. Now these tokens work differently. They're valued at $15, meaning Blizzard makes $5 off of every one of these WoW token transactions. These tokens can then be used to purchase WoW game time, or they can be redeemed for Battle.net balance, which can then be used on any digital products from the entire Blizzard store, including products outside of the World of Warcraft. The token's value is dictated by supply and demand, how many tokens are in the market versus how many are being bought, and the rate of intake and outtake, and it's updated every few minutes. Since this is player controlled, in theory, if no one bought tokens with real money to put onto the market, supply would dry up, and the price would skyrocket to a point where players would be less likely to buy tokens with gold because, well, they're not worth buying. On the flip side, if no one were to buy tokens with gold, people who are looking to buy gold would suddenly see the value of their $20 plummet, which would probably lead them to buy from a gray market service on the internet instead. The reality is that players are buying and selling gold and services somewhere. Gray market broker sites basically work the same way as the WoW token, offering a price and taking a processing fee to ensure a quote safe transaction. There just happens to be one inside of WoW as well, which is arguably the safest place to make a purchase. This empowers those who are able to make gold to essentially pay for nearly all of Blizzard's digital products without spending any of their own money, which totally changes the perspective of pretty much all the costs that I've previously mentioned. Personally, I've been cranking out cosmetic glyphs and goblin gliders, and I haven't paid for a Blizzard thing since the token's release. The token also changes the landscape of the gray market. Blizzard does not allow the marketing of services for gold or real money, but they do not have a problem with trading services for gold. It's a pretty insidious system of weakening the gray market and getting paid for it. People who want gold have a safe way of getting it, and people who want to use their gold for free game time or Battle.net balance can do it. It feels as if no one is really losing. We're nearing the end of this whole thing on the shops, so as promised, I'm going to tuck my opinions back here. Now, I take a very amoral approach to the shops. That is, I don't think they're good or bad in either of these games. Considering cosmetics, if you want them, buy them. If you don't want them, don't buy them. That's it. That I see is the power that we have as consumers. Now, this is just an opinion. You're totally free to fight me on this, but I'm gonna win. There is no pay to win in either of these games. At least not the way bona fide pay to win works. Like, there isn't any invincible Starman that you can buy. There's no ultimate sword of the ownage that you can use to destroy people in PvP. There's no random loot box to buy and roll for high-end gear when you never set foot into endgame content. There's no airship house that rains fire on your enemies. You can't pay for a reset of your weekly lockouts. You can't buy secret loot rerolls or play on a premium subscription that gets you cool stuff. There basically is no scenario where cash enables a clear and competitive advantage over other players. That's why while the level and job boosts check a few of those pay-to-win boxes, you also got to wonder, well, what is the advantage? What is the win? The answer is vague, and that's the point. It varies for everybody. That's why the boost will forever be disputed as to whether it's a bona fide pay-to-win. However, there is a gray market. You don't pay Blizzard or Square to clear raids for you, but with cash or gold, you do make arrangements with players or organizations of players to join their groups and clear content, or to farm up arena raiding, or to help level your crafting jobs, get you attuned to Karazhan, and so much more. The difference is that somebody's doing the work. It could have been friendship and camaraderie that let these people help you out, but in this case, it's a transaction of gold or money. Now, I worked hard and got my 10 million gold over several months, but I could have spent $1,100 to indirectly ask players to send me that much gold that they earned. Final Fantasy XIV's gray market is not as problematic as WoW's because, again, there just isn't a lot of late game content. I mean, there is, but it's more limited to paying others to power level crafting jobs that can't be boosted, or relic weapon farming, and other things that I admit I don't have a lot of knowledge about. There isn't exactly a market to pay gil for carries, hence players would turn to the gray market. World of Warcraft has a very big but not illegal gray market problem. And remember, these are opinions, so we can discuss this in the comments. But the reason WoW has such a big problem in this space isn't just because there's more high-end content available, but because pickup groups have become fickle and toxic and problematic to the point where I can make the claim that it's arguably better to just pay for a boosting service to run stuff because you know that that group has an incentive to succeed. And you have to admit that I do have a point. That is the real tragedy here. If the WoW token was taken away tomorrow, carries wouldn't go away. They would just abandon gold and go underground. The people that want these would just throw down the same amount of real money for the same thing, and WoW's gold economy would suddenly see a lot less gold circulating in the market. At the root of this gray market problem is in fact the big three: arenas, Mythic Plus, organized raids, where right now it's too easy to come away from it feeling like you lost. If we shift our perspective a bit, challenging content can be fun because, it's challenging. Challenge with the fear of failure makes the win that much more fulfilling, but it makes the loss that much more punishing. And in a game like World of Warcraft that embraces friction and competition, the fear of failure, of punishment, can risk altering player behavior in such a way that they'll do anything to avoid that punishment. That, of course, could mean taking steps to performing better, but it also means being a lot more selective on who you group with, or at worst, to just pay to get into a group that has the incentive to succeed. It's funny how I started talking about WoW's monetization and have suddenly come upon a really big problem that faces the World of Warcraft. High skill endgame created a hostile culture that encourages paying for carries, with the WoW token being the feature that kind of closes the loop. So how do we break that loop? I don't have a silver bullet answer, but I do have an idea to get us started, and that's to go all in with a PvE currency, just like in days past, that can be used to buy and upgrade viable gear for endgame. This gives your routine endgame content a solvent consolation reward no matter how things go. Blizzard went halfway there with Mythic Plus and Valor Point rewards, but there's no vendor with which to just buy gear. So let's add a vendor with a single set of gear that might not have ideal secondary stats, but at least it's upgradable. Maybe you're more likely to gear faster with drops or the Great Vault, but a fallback like this makes those untimed keys mean something. That raid may not have dropped anything this week, but okay, cool, there's going to be something in your Great Vault, and you have enough valor to buy something at the vendor. Part of what helped the World of Warcraft thrive in its earlier days was the almost mindless farming of easy endgame content like the Daily Heroic. So let's add valor to that, and the weekly dungeon event, and at the end of a battleground or an arena match. If Blizzard can shift the endgame paradigm from a challenge with consequences and punishment by adding an easier, farmable layer of endgame group content, the gray market would not exactly go away, but maybe fewer people would rely on it. Korthia is a decent, if imperfect, start. I think they ought to lean into that more, and it might pay off. So that's going to be it. I want to thank you for listening to this last part. I know it got pretty ranty at times, but please like the video if it was helpful, subscribe for more of this and all things Warcraft, and I will see you later. Until then, stay safe, stay healthy, and stay breezy.